What's up everybody, it's Critical. I'm going to be teaching you all about carbohydrates, what they are, and how they're used. Now this is something I've never done before. I've never taught a lesson or anything of that nature, but recently I've been reflecting on all of my college courses and all of the useless knowledge that I have. And it's not really useless, just useless to me. I've completely lost interest in my field, which was exercise physiology and basically anything biology related. So I have a lot of knowledge in that area, but I know I'm never going to use it, so I kind of thought, well, maybe I could pass it on to all of you and it might be useful to you in some way. So I decided to make this lesson about carbohydrates because there's a lot of confusion surrounding them and a lot of conflicting information regarding carbohydrates, so I figured I'd take that shit and turn it into a nicer shit. So here we go. That's my hand right there. It's held my wiener more than a few times. Now, the incredible thing about hands is I can write words with them, like carbs. So carbs are your wheat, your bread, your pasta, your rice, shit like that. That's a bowl of rice in case you couldn't tell. I know it looks like a fucking Jackson Pollock, but I'm not the best artist, but I'm trying my best. Then you have your fat, which is things like peanut butter. Your protein, which is your meats, like chicken. This is obviously a picture of a chicken. I know it looks more like a dinosaur without arms, suffering from extreme scoliosis, but trust me, it's a chicken to represent protein. And these three make up your macronutrients. And these are crucial to your survival, pussy fart. Now let's break this down a bit further. Carbs will give you 4 calories per gram, fat will give you 9 calories per gram, and protein will give you 4 calories per gram. They're not all digested the same, they're not all absorbed the same or used the same way, but we'll get into that another time. I'm going to focus on carbs for this, I just wanted to give a brief overview. Now what is a calorie? Well, a calorie is the amount of energy required to raise the temperature of water by 1 degree Celsius. Now I don't want to go into too much detail on all this, I just wanted to briefly touch on it. So carbs are the primary source of fuel for the human body. They're the most easily used nutrient for energy. They should make up anywhere from 45 to 65% of your daily amount of calories. As clearly indicated by this drawing, it gives you some fucking energy. I know it looks more like this man's eating bread and is about to be hit by a surprise tornado, but trust me, he's eating bread and he has energy. That's what I'm trying to represent here. Now carbs are the first thing your body uses for energy, but if you're lacking in carbs, it'll turn to fat. Fat will be the second thing it burns for energy, much in the same way it does for carbs. It goes through a very similar process. Now if you don't have a lot of carbs and you don't have a lot of fat, your body will resort to using protein for energy, which it does not want to do. It is very bad at using protein for energy, and it's very dangerous to do that as well, so the body does not want to do that. Something I wanted to mention, the body only burns carbs for about 30 minutes on average before it goes, oh shit, need to save the rest of this, and starts burning fat for energy, which is why those fat burning workout plans typically have you doing low intensity exercise for a long period of time, like lifting a toothpick for 5,000 reps or throwing a beanbag at a wall for 68 hours. And it's also why the ketogenic diet is so successful, because they have you eating 0 carbs and just have you chow down on buckets full of almonds and cleanse your palate with gasoline. So you have this high amount of fat with no carbs to burn, so the only thing your body can burn is fat, which is why people get real fucking shredded when they go on the ketogenic diet. Just wanted to explain the logic behind those two things. In the words of Julius Caesar, not all carbohydrates are the same, but they're typically going to be one of 3 things. A monosaccharide like this glucose right here, a disaccharide like this sucrose here, or a polysaccharide like this starch I'm drawing. The body jerks these carbs off in different ways. It takes a lot less effort to digest and absorb a monosaccharide than it does a polysaccharide like bread, which is why doctors recommend that most of your carbs be complex carbohydrates, like my asshole. Let's talk about the breakdown of these bad boys. So this right here is you. It's gonna look like a methed out Pac-Man, but for all intents and purposes, it's you. And this is you eating the bread. Apparently you eat the bread by smacking yourself in the face with it. I'm sorry, I'm not a good artist. So when you're chewing the food, it's a mechanical breakdown. But an enzyme is also released called amylase, which helps break it down further. Once it goes through your mouth, it goes into your stomach, continues to break down in there, goes to your small intestine after that, where most of the breakdown is going to happen because more amylase is released. It eventually gets broken down into monosaccharides, glucose, fructose, or galactose. Once it's in this monosaccharide form, it undergoes something called glycolysis. After glycolysis comes the Krebs cycle, and the product of this is ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. If you're taking notes on all this, remember to write this down. Fuck glycolysis and fuck the Krebs cycle. ATP is alright though, he's a pretty cool guy. Glycolysis and the Krebs cycle are just extremely complicated and it's really not worth understanding how they work. But ATP, that is the main source of energy for your body. That's what your body uses for energy. The cells love it, you love it, everyone's happy with ATP, as this drawing is clearly showing. So, adenosine triphosphate is used everywhere. It is what the cells use for energy, basically. So you need ATP. and you just need it. Now, I bet you're wondering why I'm awake at 4 a.m. talking about adenosine triphosphate and carbohydrates. Well, it's because I love this shit. No, I'm kidding, I hate this shit. But you're probably asking yourself why you typically gain weight when you eat a lot of carbs. Well, that's because the energy you don't burn gets stored as glycogen in your liver. But once you run out of storage space there, fucking Tom and Glary, that glycogen will get stored as fat in your cells when you run out of space in your liver. That's the point I'm trying to make, except I really fumbled the word, sorry about that. So yeah, that's basically carbohydrates in a nutshell. It's been a long time since I've gone over any of this information, so it might all be wrong. Not really sure. I don't think it is, though. I think it's accurate, but it could be. Who knows? It might be entirely wrong. But if I was an actual college professor, I wouldn't let my students leave until they said, "I hope you have a great day, Professor Steelmeat." Steelmeat's obviously not my real last name, but that's what I want the students to address me as well as faculty, and pretty much anyone else. I think it'd be really fun to be addressed as Professor Steelmeat. But yeah, that's the end of today's lesson, so see ya. What's up everybody, it's Critical, also known as Professor Steelmeat, and today's lesson topic is prions. Now if you're like me, a hypochondriac, you hit your hand on the edge of a table and you instantly think you've contracted fucking gonorrhea or something, then you've probably done some research on prions since they're being talked about a lot more recently. So since they're becoming such a popular subject, I'd like to teach you all what they are, how they work, etc. So go ahead and turn your textbooks to page Go Fuck Yourself and let's begin. Now what is a prion? Fundamentally a prion is a misfolded protein, but it's infectious and there's no nucleotides, which means there's no DNA and there's no RNA. And it infects the properly folded prion proteins, and once there's enough of this misfolded protein, it causes cell death in the brain, which leaves holes in the brain, which is what I'm illustrating with that drawing right there that just looks like a really badly drawn chocolate chip cookie, and then eventually the person dies. It's the cause of what's known as TSEs, or transmissible spongiform encephalopathies, and it's just some very shitty shit. Now here's a brief history of its discovery. In 1950 there was an outbreak of what's known as kuru in Papua New Guinea. Those infected with kuru lost the ability to walk, chew, and swallow, so obviously since they weren't able to eat, they died. About 10 years later, this kuru outbreak, as well as scabies, was studied. Scabies is another TSE, but it only affects goats and sheep. This head of cauliflower represents a sheep. It was studied by 2 London researchers, and they hypothesized that these TSEs were the result of a protein-only pathogen. Then, in 1982, a neurologist named Stanley Naughty Nipples Prusner came forward and announced that he had proven the hypothesis correct and named them prions, which is short for proteinaceous infectious particles. Now, that's a brief history of how prions were discovered. Now let's really get into what they are. Now there's 2 things here. There's PRPC, which is normal, and PRPSC, which is the misfolded version. PRP is just short for prion protein. Now everyone's body has PRPC in it, although no one understands exactly what PRPC does for the body. And I clearly don't know how to draw the fucking thing. It looks like a wacky waving inflatable tube flailing arm man or whatever they're called. But that's the best I can do, and that's basically what PRPC looks like, and there's usually no problems with it, and it's completely normal, although no one knows its exact function. Maybe it makes you shoot cum further, maybe it makes your teeth whiter, maybe it's fucking Maybelline. No one has any idea really. Your guess is as good as everyone else's. And then there's the abnormal version, which is the prion disease-causing one, PRPSC, which is the misfolded protein. And it's also poorly drawn. I'm not very good at drawing shit, but that's kind of what that looks like. This shit causes a lot of scary shit, like fatal familial insomnia. This is another really bad drawing, I know. It looks like he's laying his head on a bar of soap. I'm sorry, I'm a horrible artist, but I'm doing the best I can. Now, fatal familial insomnia affects the person's ability to sleep, eventually making them completely unable to sleep, which leads to extreme weight loss. This giant shoe is supposed to be a scale, and then eventually death. Now, it's not just them wide awake and not able to sleep. They beg to sleep. They are just perpetually exhausted and craving sleep, but their body just will not let them. It's a horrible disease, and there's a lot of other horrible diseases that this causes, such as Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which I'm drawing here, and also the one most of you have probably heard of before, mad cow disease. It also causes something in deer called chronic wasting disease. It just causes a whole bunch of shit. That's a very sad cow. Mad cow disease was a very sad time for cows, and everyone else. Actually, you know what, real quick fun fact, there's only 2 things in the entire universe. There's cows and everything that isn't a cow, so that really affected a lot of shit when that was going around. So let's talk about how this PRPSC spreads to the normal prion proteins. This is very haphazardly drawn, I just wanted to quickly show how it does it. So the misfolded protein comes in contact with the normally folded protein, and it's able to actually infect it and turn it into another PRP-SC and completely get rid of the normal folded one. And it does this numerous times until they all form a long chain called an amyloid fiber. Now this amyloid fiber is toxic to the surrounding cells in the brain, so what happens is it starts to kill off all the cells surrounding it. Yes, I know this looks like a tit with tentacles coming off of it. It kills all of these cells, and then these cells get cleaned up, but the amyloid fiber stays. And once these cells are cleaned up, it leads to holes in the brain, and those holes obviously aren't good, and that leads to diseases. But the amyloid fiber continues to multiply until there's pretty much nothing left of the brain. Now, how do you contract one of these TSEs? They've identified 3 ways. You consume contaminated meat where the animal had a prion disease, thus you would get the prion disease. They also believe that there's just a genetic mutation that can occur that can cause the prion protein to misfold. And they also believe that there's just a random chance that the prion protein will misfold, thus giving the person a prion disease. Now, I'd like to point out that contaminated meat isn't an issue of ill-prepared meat. You could cook that motherfucker to a block of charcoal and it would still not get rid of the prion disease if the animal the meat came from had it. So, let's talk about that. These prions are extremely difficult to get rid of. Dynamite wouldn't blow that shit up. Here's a prion taking a bath in a volcano. It would survive that and spit in the volcano's face. Alcohol and bleach doesn't kill prions. They are extremely difficult for scientists to get rid of. Autoclaving, boiling, alcohol, radiation, none of the standard methods work on prions. But in all honesty, the volcano thing and the dynamite was a bit of an exaggeration. You can actually burn prions and get rid of them. It breaks the peptide bonds and the prions are destroyed. But that's not exactly practical. You can't light someone on fire or light an animal on fire and say they're cured of the prion disease. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, they are extremely difficult to get rid of in an organism. Now, one last thing I wanted to touch on the subject of prions is a lot of scientists and researchers don't believe prions either exist or exist in the way that they are said to. Since prions don't have any nucleotides, DNA, RNA, they believe they can't possibly exist by themselves and be causing these as solely proteins. There must be something else at play, so they discredit a lot of the prion research and say it's hogwash. They say it's poop shit. They say a lot of shit about it. So I just wanted to point that out, that there is a debate on whether or not prions A exist or B exist like they're said to. And yeah, that's about all for prions. Some really horrible shit. And that's all for today's lesson. Remember to wish Professor Steelmeat a good day, and class is dismissed. See ya. What's up, everybody? It's Critical. I just wanted to show you a secret technique I've been using in Overwatch recently to guarantee play of the game every time, as well as carrying the team to victory. So you're going to want to pick Symmetra and jerk off enough goats to unlock your super, then place the teleporter as close to any cliff as you can. Positioning's a little tricky, sometimes you'll fall off. Then just get into a good position and watch your team get right back into the action.
I'll show them.
Now, for some reason, this technique isn't utilized very often by Symmetra players. However, this separates the good ones from the great ones. This technique will earn you the respect and admiration of your teammates. As you can see here, Daniel is showing me he appreciates my efforts. I have my chat filter turned on, so I don't have to read any filthy fucking language. So I'm assuming he said love you, Big Moist, but just in case he was a bit perturbed and something was lost in translation and picked up by the chat filter, I went ahead and covered my own anus, told him I misplaced it, because that's an accident that can happen, and he understood. And the game continued as normal, and we were the best of pals. Now, in all honesty, I'm pretty fucking upset. I don't know how to turn off the chat filter, so we'll never truly know what he said there, but I think we can all assume via context clues that it was a compliment. The game progressed, I unlocked my super again, I placed a teleport in the same location, and Daniel was lucky enough to be the first to try it out again. So, as you can see, the technique is extremely beneficial. So if you're looking to get some quick levels, some quick victories under your belt, and when the competitive scene comes out, grab that by the tits, you're going to want to integrate this technique into your Symmetra play. Now, I have a few more clips of me using it, but I'm going to give a brief history of the technique because it's not exclusive to Overwatch. In fact, it started in a game known as Team Fortress 2. Now, I know many of you probably haven't heard of that before because that is a very small community surrounding it, but you could do something very similar to this in that game. I'd also like to point out that this is the best map for this technique because you have some very nice backdrop. You have Liberty Prime duking it out with Megatron, and it's just a really nice scenery, so when your teammates go through it, they get to experience a nice, robotic fight. Now, I'd like to point out this isn't flawless, so if your teammates aren't charging the front lines, guns blazing, erections raising, then they can avoid falling off the cliff by just stopping after going through the teleporter like this man does, and they can just give them a shield and they can be about their merry day. And yeah, that's about all there is to this, so hope you enjoy using this strategy. See ya. What's up everybody, it's Critical. I want to talk about something super important today. Now when people think of an event that changes the human species, many people think of nuclear bombs or other weapons we built to destroy each other, or maybe something religious like a meteor strike or God jerking off onto the planet causing a mass extinction bukkake. But let me tell you the most realistic thing that may change the course of the human species. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria. I'm sure many of you have heard of this before, but for those who haven't, it's bacteria that becomes resistant to all of our antibiotics. Antibiotics were first discovered by Alexander Fleming in the early 20th century when he identified penicillin, and that and vaccinations led to a lot of diseases becoming pretty much extinct. But within the last couple decades, people have gotten a lot stupider and a lot more comfortable and taken a lot more things for granted. So now you have these stupid people like the anti-vaccination troglodytes who claim that vaccinations are going to cause their kids autism and have small tits and nipples, and they just don't want that, so they don't vaccinate their kids. Then this allowed for a lot of diseases that hadn't been seen for 50 plus years to come back even stronger. And then you have shitty doctors that'll prescribe antibiotics for pretty much fucking anything. If you glue a popsicle stick to your nose and then your nose gets stuffy because of it, you can ask for antibiotics and it'll give you them. Then you have people that don't finish their antibiotics when they're given them, which leads to the infection becoming more resilient to that type of antibiotic. And now a lot of farmers have been using antibiotics on their animals because they don't just want normal animals. They want chickens that can bench press 400 pounds, so they give them fucking antibiotics. That way they get bigger and beefier, so they get more meat per chicken and cow. It's incredible. And all of this coupled together leads to the bacteria becoming more accustomed to the antibiotic, which leads to them evolving to be more resistant to it so they can continue to survive. It's basic evolutionary shit. Now, I know a lot of people sitting out there like, you know what, I don't give a shit, it doesn't affect me right now, this is something that might happen in the future, why should I care now? Well, you homunculus, it's actually going to affect all of us right now, because it's happening at this very moment. A woman in Nevada just died today from a superbug that was resistant to every type of antibiotic. So these antibiotic-resistant bacteria are in the world now. So why is this so bad? Before antibiotics, people would die from the most basic shit. If you got a cut on your finger, that could basically kill you if it gets infected, because there's not much you can do about it. And it's not just injuries that might get infected and kill you. Surgery would be completely off the table. There would no longer be any surgery allowed anymore, because when you get surgery, you're given antibiotics to prevent infections from getting cut open and doing all this and that. And if these bacteria are resistant to the antibiotics, you will die from getting surgery. There will be no more life-saving surgeries because the risk is just too high. And it's not even just huge, big surgeries that would be out of the question. The smallest shit, like getting your wisdom teeth taken out, boob jobs, those would all be off of the table. Porn star titties would be small again. Most people out there probably are hearing what I'm saying and going, you know what, it doesn't really matter. We're so smart, I'm sure we'll find more antibiotics. Maybe, but there's a really small chance of that. There's a really good chance that there's just no more antibiotics to be found, that this is the limit. I don't think the majority of the 7 billion people overpopulating this planet understood just how important antibiotics were. I'm using it past tense because it seems like they're not going to be effective anymore. We're already seeing a lot of bacteria that's resistant to certain antibiotics, just not all of them yet until today, from the Nevada woman who died from one who was completely resistant to all of the antibiotics. So what's the point in me telling you all this scary shit? My channel's dedicated to playing shitty video games and making weird videos. Well, the point is, maybe it'll help open some of your eyes. When you get antibiotics in the future, you'll finish the fucking dosage so you don't contribute to the problem. If you have friends or family that don't finish their antibiotics, tell them that shit's not gonna fly. Hey, Grandma Ruby, you sit those saggy ass cheeks down, I'm gonna watch you take these antibiotics each day until they're gone. Stop buying meat from places like Tyson that use antibiotics. I'm really not doing it justice illustrating just how big of a deal this is, but hopefully what I've said so far will help some people out there and contribute to the efforts to not all die from antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Also, if any of you out there listening to this are part of the anti-vaccination crowd, I strongly urge you to never reproduce, and to please keep yourself locked inside of your house in total isolation. I've been reading a lot of scientific reports recently that claim too much air can cause herpes, so truly it's for your own good if you just stay locked inside of your house. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this PSA. Remember, it's not too late to stop being stupid, so yeah. That's it. See ya. Courage the Cowardly Dog is my favorite cartoon to ever air, and now I'd like to spend some time and tell you why I believe it is perhaps the best cartoon ever created. So go ahead and snuggle on up with a warm blanket, unclench your sphincter because I'm coming in raw. We currently exist in a reality that is one of an infinite number in the multiverse. This corporeal dimension in which we have consciousness is composed primarily of protons, neutrons, and megatrons, and as a leading expert in pseudoscience, I have decided to take the liberty and dub our timeline in this multiverse the Berenstain timeline. At one point we were on the Berenstein timeline, but at some point we phase shifted over into the Berenstain universe, which is where we currently reside now. In this reality, a divine being has bestowed upon us an ultimate gift that makes all the other realities in the multiverse seem weaker compared to ours. That gift is a cartoon known as Courage the Cowardly Dog. Now for the troglodytes out there that have never seen the show and know nothing about it, I'll break it down for you. In a nutshell, the show revolves around a pink dog named Courage, who was abandoned as a pup, but was found by Muriel, who lives in the middle of nowhere, with her husband Eustace Bag. And throughout the show, a lot of different spooky villains show up, a lot of scary and intense situations unfold, and it's up to Courage to keep Muriel and Eustace safe as best as he possibly can. The show is the perfect balance of comedy and horror. As a child, there was a few episodes that would send me to bed with a baby boner and cold sweats, and I'd have nightmares about what I had watched right before falling asleep. One of the most prominent examples of this is one a lot of people know who are familiar with the show. It's called King Ramses' Curse.
Return the slab.
What?
Return the slab, or suffer my curse.
What's your offer?
This night you will be visited by 3 plagues, each worse than the last. Return the slab.
The main curse King Ramses brought during this episode was shitted in pants from all of the children that saw this episode. The episode revolves around Eustace coming in possession of this old relic that is cursed, and it's worth a lot of money, so he doesn't want to give it up to break the curse, so King Ramses is torturing the family to get it back while constantly saying, "Return the slab." And the design for King Ramses is pretty disturbing, especially to a younger viewer. It's definitely not something they would expect in a 2D cartoon, and it's another reason why the show is really great. It wasn't afraid to mix a whole bunch of different mediums with some 3D, some CGI, and a lot of other different techniques that they'd incorporate into the show. King Ramses' episode really stands the test of time. A lot of people remember it fondly because it was perhaps one of their first exposures to horror. And there's quite a few episodes similar to this one. Almost as popular as the King Ramses episode in terms of people remembering it scaring them is the You're Not Perfect episode, which is also the last episode of Courage that aired.
You're not perfect.
This abomination looking like a fucking Smurf abortion, some type of Frankenstein's monster fetus. And it's a creepy little thing here that you never really expect from the show. If you're watching it for the first time as a kid, this is something you really wouldn't expect to just come about. Really, this whole dream sequence here is a lot of different mediums that is mixed in here, a lot of different artistic styles that is thrown in here, and it really makes it pretty disturbing. Now, this is also a really good episode that shows what kind of lessons the show would kind of subtly teach children that watched it. This episode was about Courage trying to be perfect, and he's got this really strict teacher teaching him to be perfect. And eventually comes to the conclusion, not to spoil anything, last thing I'd hate to do is spoil a 20-year-old show now, but he eventually comes to this realization that, you know what, it's okay to not be perfect, and your imperfections can make you perfect, in a sense. And that's a good lesson to teach. It's nothing that hasn't been done 1,000 times before. It didn't try to reinvent the wheel, but it portrayed it in a very interesting context and a very fun episode. Now, I want to talk about my favorite part of the series, the thing that stands out to me the most, that makes it the most unique in my eyes. It's the constantly changing setting. Sometimes an entire episode will take place in the house, sometimes it'll take place at a volcano, sometimes it'll be in space where they have to put a new light bulb into the sun to fix it and save the earth. Why they called the 2 old people at the fucking farm and their dog, who knows, but it's fucking great. And what's even better is the atmosphere from episode to episode constantly changes. If you pay attention to the sky is just constantly different. It's this abstract type of art, and it's absolutely breathtaking. You know, here's an episode with the risen from the dead Vikings, and the sky is blood red, and the entire episode has this red type of filter on it, and it gives it this surreal feeling throughout the duration of this episode. And there's so many different episodes with this incredible atmosphere around it, and it's always different from episode to episode, and I fucking love it. I can really appreciate that. It's just amazing. And another thing that I think should be mentioned is this show has aged just fine. It's just as good now as it was 15 years ago. I feel if this started airing brand new in 2017, no one would question it. They'd just assume, oh, this is a brand new show, and it looks fucking great. It definitely looks a lot better than some of the shit they're putting on TV these days. I threw on Nickelodeon the other night while I was eating dinner, and they had on this abysmal Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles television show that was all CGI, but really bad CGI, like worse than Jimmy Neutron. It was like pre-Jimmy Neutron CGI levels here. It was like a fucking YouTube video I'd watch of a kid playing with their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures. It was like a fucking PS1 cutscene throughout the duration of the show. And I get it's cheaper to do CGI than some old school animation, but I mean, come on, this looked like pure anus. Now, I went back and started binging some older cartoons, and it was beautiful. It made me want to flick my bean and throw a whole fist up my pussy. Just absolutely breathtaking how gorgeous it is, especially in comparison to some of the shit that's out there these days. Now, another thing that really set Courage apart was the music. The show has a beautiful soundtrack, an absolutely amazing score. Each episode has memorable music. It has, like, each episode has its own theme throughout the episode. It's just fucking great. The most memorable to me is from the Doc Gerbil chase scene. Just listen to this motherfucker. That sounds like some shit Hans Zimmer would struggle to create. That's above even his level. It is a great song that really fits the mood of the episode and what's going on. Another great example is from my personal favorite episode of the series, The Tower of Dr. Zalost. In addition to just the great song, the whole episode is perfection. It has a great story, a great villain. Everything about it is really, really good. The story is a very sad scientist comes to town, holds the whole town ransom for money because he thinks money might make him happy. It doesn't, so he makes the whole town sad because he wants everyone to feel as sad as he is. If he isn't happy, nobody should be happy. And it's a beautiful episode with a nice happy ending. It's just fucking great. Courage the Cowardly Dog is, in my opinion, the most unique cartoon to ever air. There's a lot of nods to traditional horror, such as The Demon in the Mattress, which is clearly a callback to The Exorcist. There's an incredible cast of villains throughout the entire show. And there's so many memorable moments throughout the series, so many episodes that are just impossible to forget, some really sad and powerful ones such as The Last of the Star Makers, and some just downright entertaining episodes such as the burglar who thinks Eustace and Muriel are part of his family and they just want to go rob the Mount Rushmore together. The show is really just great for all age groups. It's one of the shows that both kids and adults can enjoy. It is a beautiful show. Each episode tells a great story with an absolutely amazing villain and a beautiful setting. It's by all definitions a one-of-a-kind cartoon that I don't think will ever be matched. I don't think anyone else will attempt to do what Courage has done. It is just this perfect amalgamation of beauty and semen. It's absolute perfection to me. So yeah, this was my verbal research paper here in APA format, of course. That's it. So yeah. For a while now, people have been asking me to talk about food and health related shit, you know, general advice or pro tips, life hacks, does anyone else, 90s kids, basically anything relating to this field of health, nutrition, working out and shit, because as I've stated, I graduated with a degree in human sciences, more specifically exercise physiology. So I decided instead of talking about this in my yearly answering major questions video I did not too long ago, I would make a whole video dedicated to it and tackle all the questions that I'm frequently asked in this area. So the first thing, there's no such thing as a superfood. Please stop emailing me asking me what superfoods I recommend. Oh, would you recommend the enhanced mulch with added fiber blend? No, superfoods don't exist, and I want you to tell yourself that every night before you go to bed after you brush your teeth. Look in the mirror and tell yourself, Superfoods aren't out there. It's like the boogeyman. It doesn't exist. Hey, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you it's not the tooth fairy that's going to be leaving kale dust under your pillow when you put a tooth there. It doesn't exist. There's obviously foods that are super good for you, but there's no food that's going to be this end-all be-all where you implement it into your diet and everything is honky-dory. You're losing weight, you're gaining muscle, and your dick's growing. It doesn't exist. That's just a marketing ploy to get you to buy some products that ordinarily you wouldn't even think about. And sometimes the products are actually really good for you, but they don't do all of these incredible things that they claim to have done or will do. And on that same topic, I'll go to the next subject. There's no such thing as a magic weight loss pill that's going to vaporize your fat, just blast your adipose into oblivion without you making any lifestyle changes at all. You can pop goat urine extract pills till the cows come home. It's not going to help your belly flatten if you're not making any lifestyle changes. And again, there are supplements that will aid in muscle growth or muscle repair or fat loss, but that also takes more than just taking those supplements. You have to do more than just that. Next, stop taking everything someone says as gospel as long as they're in really good shape. So if some yoked out, jacked monster manimal tells you, hey, I got this jacked because I sucked styrofoam out of urinals and look what happened, you should try it too, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. And there's a very good chance he never actually sucked any styrofoam at all in any point in his life. He may be the one selling the styrofoam, and you might be the one that's fallen for the scam. And really, it's less of a scam and more just blatant deceit. What I'm trying to say is a lot of these fitness YouTubers and online bodybuilding instructor gurus, not all of them know what they're talking about. Half of them I see on YouTube can barely even speak English, and I don't mean that as in they have a primary language and English is just their secondary. No, English is their native tongue. They just suck dick at even speaking their own language. Their entire lexicon consists of nothing but lits and savages, and they just do different intonations on the same lit. Oh, you'll do 3 lits on this lit, and then take a 3-second lit. It's embarrassing to watch half of the fitness YouTubers on here. And a lot of these, secret things the government doesn't want you to know for muscle gain, these secret conspiracies that we're busting wide open here, smash that like button, it's just bullshit. And it's there just to make you click on it. And it makes sense because a lot of people, they're familiar with the same shit. They don't want to keep hearing the same routines, the same shit over and over again. So if they see something like ancient Mayan bodybuilding technique the science doesn't want you to know about, they'll click on it and they'll probably even give it a try no matter how dumb or dangerous it is, Let's say the ancient Mayan bodybuilding technique generic fitness YouTuber preaching about is you put your head in some sand for 2 days and 2 nights, and then when you take your head out of the sand, you're an Adonis. It's not going to work, but people will still try it because it's just something different. People don't want to keep hearing the same shit over and over again. They want a fast-track thing that, that's been overlooked. They want to just stumble upon this secret thing that no one's trying, and they want it to work. And 9 times out of 10, that shit doesn't work. The things you don't hear about, forgotten techniques, they're forgotten for a reason because they weren't effective. And then these people that want to drive some attention to their site or their channel or whatever, they'll pander to that drive that makes people want to find something that's faster, that's more efficient, that nobody knows about, and they'll just hop on board, click it, and give it a try. It won't work, and then they'll get discouraged. And then, they've already tried everything, and they feel like it's on them. I've tried everything people talk about, it doesn't work, and now I've tried this ancient Neptunian, Atlantean bodybuilding technique, and that didn't work either. It must just be me, and then they stop working out because they get discouraged, and it's sad. It's fucking sad. So please, just stop listening to a lot of fitness YouTubers that don't really know what they're talking about. Do your own research. Don't just take somebody's word for it just because they're in good shape. Now let's move on to the most common question asked in anything regarding health and fitness. How do I lose fat? How do I get a flatter stomach? First thing you need to accept, you can't spot treat fat. You can't choose where on your body you lose fat from based on the exercise. For example, doing 1,000 sit-ups an hour, it's going to improve the strength of your abs. They're going to be a lot stronger, but it's not going to give you a six-pack if it's still buried under 10 layers of fat. You don't need to work out either if your only goal is losing weight, losing fat. That all boils down to your diet, 100%. Working out is just if you want to build muscle as well, and it'll also help with burning fat and such because the more muscle you have on your body, the easier it becomes to burn fat. I know that's not what you want to hear, and I'm sure you've been told the old calories in versus calories out a million times, but that genuinely is what it boils down to. just controlling how much you eat. And you can overeat if you're compensating for it with exercise and working out. You're doing jumping jacks with soft nut sacks and you're just hitting it hard out there, going for gold, going fast and eating ass. Then yeah, you can definitely eat more than normal without gaining weight or fat because you've burned those calories. Now I'm going to branch off of this subject into two other really popular ones that I get asked about a lot. The first being, what should I eat in order to lose weight and such? What should I be looking for? What diet? Well, I don't really like to recommend diets because that implies that it should end at some point, where what you really should be looking for is a lifestyle change or an approach to how you eat, which should translate over a long course of time. Obviously, you can keep changing up how you eat. I constantly do, depending on my goals, but a diet really implies like this ephemeral 1 hour change or something, and that's not effective. But that being said, I do recommend a ketogenic diet. And this kind of goes against what I just said. It's a bit contradictory because I only recommend the ketogenic diet until you reach your goal. And then I would switch into just eating with common sense. A ketogenic diet's one I talked about in the past. It's where you reduce carbs a lot and you increase your fat and protein intake. That's a ketogenic diet in a nutshell. It's extremely effective. There's tons of research on it, so I'd encourage all of you out there that are curious about it or even thinking about trying it to do your own research and see what you think. There's definitely a lot more reputable studies on ketogenic diet than a lot of other stupid ones that fitness YouTubers present. Like, oh, hey, I'm generic fitness YouTuber 19. Here's my diet recommendation. It's called the Coca Duty. Here's some research, and they link to like fucking mcdonalds.com/research. It's just, there's real studies on keto diets, and I do think they're very well conducted for the most part. Another one that I'd also recommend that's also extremely popular right now is intermittent fasting. That's where you eat for 8 hours, fast for 16 for the most part. Some people do other numbers, but you're fasting for the vast majority of the 24 hours, and you get all of your meals in a short period of time. The idea behind that is when you eat all of your meals close together, you give your body so much more time to digest it and focus on other processes like building muscle if you're trying to get muscular. It makes sense, and there are a lot of studies to corroborate its efficiency, so I'd also recommend that as well and to do your research on it. Now, these two are bad examples because I don't think these are things people could do for the rest of their lives, and I think what most people need is a lifelong change in the way they approach food. That's not something you'll get from diets. That's something you'll have to hunker down on and say, hey, look, if I want to achieve this and that, I'll have to eat like this and that. And it's not easy, I know. I'll share what helped me. I've talked about this in the past. I'm pretty sure I even brought this very same thing up, but I'll bring it up one more time because it's been a while. I used to be really overweight, and since I'm so short, I looked like a fucking Sloppy Joe sandwich, an extra small Sloppy Joe sandwich. If you got me on a plate when you ordered a Sloppy Joe, you'd be really disappointed and your stomach wouldn't even be full. I was fat and I was short, so it wasn't a good combination at all. But eventually I realized, I eat like shit, but why? If I eat like shit or I eat healthy, it doesn't matter because 2 minutes after I've finished eating, it's already gone. The happiness from eating is gone. It's just so temporary, what's the point? I might as well eat a little bit better if I want to be happier with the way I look. So that's a perspective that helped me out. Now going on to the next part of this topic is how to work out, and what to do to gain muscle and such. Well, I don't want to design a general workout plan for everyone out there or give a general workout routine or anything like that. But I will say you want as many compound lifts as possible. When I say compound lift, I'm talking things like the bench press, the deadlift, the squat, the big three. I'm sure all of you have heard of those before. They're very popular for a very good reason. They recruit a lot of muscles to complete the movement. They increase testosterone. It's what you want. That's what you're looking for. But if you don't really care about weightlifting, you don't have to do weightlifting to get muscular. Calisthenics is extremely effective. In fact, it's probably even better if you're only looking for an athletic physique. You'll probably get more tone and ripped off a calisthenic-focused exercise routine. Calisthenics are body weight. The calisthenics involve just using your body weight as the resistance instead of weight. So things like push-ups, and then when you get more advanced, do a push-up with your toy poodle on your back. When you get even more advanced, do a handstand push-up with your toy poodle resting on your nutsack while you're upside down. Things in that nature. And that really helps build a really toned and athletic physique, which is what a lot of people only care about. So calisthenics might be what you're looking for if that's your goal. Now, this was also very hard for me when I was overweight. It's very difficult to start and then get in the routine of motivating yourself to keep going, so I'll share with you my perspective on how I viewed this and what helped me. The time was going to pass regardless. You know, let's say I wanted to spend I didn't want to spend an hour at the gym, but let's say I went and spent an hour to the gym and I fucking hated it. Well, that hour was going to pass no matter what I did, so at least I spent an hour helping me get to a point where I'm not disgusted every time I look in the mirror and want to fucking puke out of my penis hole. It really came to this conclusion where, you know, time's going to pass. No matter what I do, I might as well spend a little bit of that time getting me to a point where I'll be happier 3 months from now with how I look. That's kind of what helped me. Kind of in the same way I viewed food, you know, it's no matter what, you're going to forget how much fun that shitty meal was. No matter what, the time's going to pass, even if you spend it doing something fun, like jerking off while playing a video game and watching hentai. But I could also spend that time or that meal doing something that would help me be happier down the line. Since no matter what I did, whether I was having fun or not having fun, it wouldn't matter, because time was going to pass regardless. So that's how I viewed it, and that's what helped me. Maybe that'll help you, maybe it won't. These are the main things I get asked in emails about this subject, so I figured I'd tackle all of them in one big video here. So hopefully this helped, and hopefully it answered all of those questions. So yeah, I mean, that's about it. See ya. Hello there. This is something many of you are not going to want to hear, but I think many of you really need to hear. My dog's even tearing up about the story I'm about to tell. It's a true story. It all happened a week ago. It involves 3 characters: an innocent nail supply warehouse managing supply guy, an insurance man, and one man who just happened to be in the area looking for a nice opportunity. Last week, an innocent nail supply warehouse burnt to the ground. $800,000 worth of nail supplies vanished in an instant, just like that. Everything changed when the Fire Nation burnt down the nail supply warehouse. But luckily they were covered by insurance, so the nail supply warehouse was just fine. They got recouped. Insurance man made a deal. He was happy. But then there was one man, the X Factor, the variable no one could have counted on, who just happened to be in the area. Maybe he was buying lottery scratch-off tickets, who really knows? No one knows the man's true motive for being in the area at that time, but he saw an opportunity to pick up all the inventory that they could no longer use, and they were covered for, so they just wanted to throw in the dumpster. And he said, you know what? Maybe I could have that. And according to all the sources I can find, he took all of the remaining inventory of the nail polish, the nail drying supplies, all types of shit. I'm not too familiar with nail products myself, but he took it all. Now, what exactly is the life lesson to be learned here? Well, it's as they say. One man's incinerated pile of shit is another man's treasure. But what exactly is the lesson to be learned here? Honestly, I really don't know. But I have a fucking ton of nail supplies. Each one of those boxes has another 500 of those motherfuckers. Yippee. You were just walking around being all human and shit with your tendons and ligaments and muscles when all of a sudden you got hit with a strong gust of wind which fractured your arm. This is commonly referred to as breaking your bone, but in the medical industry it's called an ouchie bang bang. After one experiences an OBB, the potassium cells in the body flock to the scene of the break and fill the hole with a red substance known as hemahobgoblin. Let's take a closer look inside of this substance. Now that we've cannonballed inside, you can clearly see that there's a fucking ton of dots in here. That about covers it for its composition. But I'd have my teaching license revoked if I didn't mention the osteoblasts and the osteoclasts. We'll start with the osteoblasts, who have the leading role in repairing broken bone, the Robert Downey Jr. to your body's Marvel Cinematic Universe. On the surface of every bone in the human body, you'll find the osteoblasts. I'm just kidding, you fucking nerd, it's the osteoclast. Did I have you going? Are you that fucking stupid? You just got osteo outclassed. These boring losers here are the osteoclast. They look like a tomato-covered ditto from Pokemon. They break apart the bone, they gobble it up, they eat it, they have an insatiable appetite, they're fucking gluttony incarnate. Then there's the osteoblasts, which are the cool one. That's these blue Roombas that just go across the surface of your bone, leaving behind a trail of cum behind them, which helps repair. This process is known as segagenesis, the suffix genesis meaning creation of, prefix sega meaning bad games. Now here's a picture of a melted marshmallow. Does that answer all your questions? Now everything we've just learned about and discussed all comes together, works in tandem, and starts to repair your bone and make it stronger than it's ever been in its entire fucking life. Now as we zoom out here, you'll notice that you don't even end up being the same person anymore. After this process is complete, you become Homer Simpson. been a couple years since I've done one of these, but welcome to Season 2 of Man with a Useless College Degree Teaches Shit He Learned While Obtaining His Useless Degree. Starring me, Professor Wetgood. Now please, class, take your seats and get ready, because I'm about to make your minds ejaculate. Today's subject, keto diets. What are ketogenic diets? How do they work? Can you do a ketogenic diet while playing Fortnite? Will Fortnite run for president? All of these questions will be answered in today's lesson. I'm sure the majority of you are at least familiar with the name keto diet without maybe understanding exactly what it is, but it's really been quite the fad. It's been all over the media. It's just been lighting that bitch up. People have been promoting the health benefits for a couple of years now, and it's really starting to catch on. So let's go ahead and start. Keto is short for ketogenic. I'm sure every third grader in the world could put that fucking puzzle together, but it's worth mentioning. Ketogenic is referring to the state your body enters when you go on this sort of diet. Your body goes into a state called ketosis. Ketosis gets its name because your body in this state produces something called ketones. Now, how do you get your body to the state of ketosis? You severely restrict your carb intake, you keep your protein intake moderate, you don't want to go too high, but you do want to go hard on your fats. Now, let's say every morning you get up and you just can't function properly without your breakfast fettuccine alfredo to jumpstart your morning. For lunch, you get a Subway sandwich, and for dinner, you chow down on some fried rice. Well, A, you're a fucking monster for going to Subway for your sandwich. You might as well pick up a scoop of dirt on your way to work and eat that. There's more flavor there than in one of those sandwiches. And B, you'd have to cut that shit out. You'd have to completely change the way you eat because that right there is far too many carbs. The sweet spot for a ketogenic diet is anywhere from 20 to 50 grams of carbs per day, depending on what research you're looking at. Some people can get up to 100 grams a day and still get into a state of ketosis, but that's very rare. It all depends on your body type, but typically 20 to 50 grams a day is that golden spot where you're getting some nice rim jobs and seeing great results. Now you know how to get into the state of ketosis, but why would you want to? So when your body's in this state of ketosis, it produces what's called ketones. And in the absence of carbs, your body can't use glucose as its main energy source anymore. Thus, it starts producing ketones to replace it as the main energy source. Is glucose bad? Is it the worst thing in the world? Did it shoot your parents and fuck your wife? No, it didn't. Fuck no, it's fine. But the problem is when you eat something like, let's say, a fucking coconut and Nutella birthday cake, I'd rather eat asshole than that, but let's say you took a bite of that. What this does is it gives you a lot of glucose that your body now needs to use, and if you don't use it all, like let's say you don't run fucking 5 miles to burn all that shit off, it gets stored because your body didn't need it, so it stores it as adipose, which is fat. So now you know that using glucose as your primary energy source is fine, but if you don't use all the glucose, there's a good chance you're going to start gaining some adipose tissue. So how are ketones different, and why do we prefer to use them instead of glucose? Well, first of all, ketones come from the breakdown of fat in the liver. So instead of using glucose, you're using fundamentally fat. You're using your fat as your energy source now. Now the next natural question becomes, why doesn't our liver naturally just break down fats? Why do we have to be in ketosis to really kick that shit into overdrive? It's because of the insulin levels. When you take something in, like the example I gave earlier, a coconut shit cake or whatever the fuck it was, your glucose levels go up, but so do your insulin levels, because insulin is responsible for transporting the glucose throughout the bloodstream. When your insulin levels are high, it makes it very hard for your liver to break down fat, if at all. So when you enter ketosis and you're not digesting coconut stinky shits, your insulin levels are dropping as well, which in turn makes it so your liver can break down the fats more easily. So once again, just to wrap that all up and put a pretty bow on it, in essence, you just start using fats, your fat, as your energy source. Now you know what ketones are, why they're a good thing, now you know how to enter ketosis, but now let's talk about some of the things a lot of people make mistakes on when doing a ketogenic diet. The biggest one, and definitely for me personally, this is where I fucked up big time doing keto, is your protein intake. It has to be moderate. It can't be super high. And the reason for that is when you have so much protein and you don't have any carbs coming in, your body starts breaking down protein as its energy source, and this process is called gluconeogenesis. This is the last fucking thing you want. You'll start looking all noodle-armed and noodle-dicked because your body is literally eating away your lean muscle mass. So you have to be very careful when taking in your protein. You have to be very mindful. You keep it at a middle ground level. I can't really give you an average number because that's going to vary from person to person drastically, depending on a lot of different characteristics. Another big common mistake is eating fruits. Fruits are pretty damn high in carbs. You have to pretty much avoid fruits when on a ketogenic diet, which not a lot of people expect or really know how to adapt to, because you grow up being taught that fruits are some of your best friends, but sometimes you gotta leave your friends behind so you can chase your dreams. And in this case, that's exactly what has to happen. And the last huge mistake people make on a keto diet is not getting enough of the right fats. If you're not taking in enough fat, you're not going to be burning fat. You're just not going to really be succeeding in a keto diet. So you have to make sure that you're eating a lot of fat. And for some people, that's pretty hard because you grow up being taught that fat is the schoolyard bully, the playground bully that's just going to shove your face into the mud pies and make you fat. Which I'd like to say right now is 100% bullshit. Fat does not make you fat. That myth was started about 50 or 60 fucking years ago when obesity really started to become a problem because of all the sugar in the food, and people started to take notice. So then companies that used a lot of sugar in their shit-ass products started to shift the blame onto fat instead of the sugar to keep sugar looking innocent. And for some reason that still persisted where people think fat is an inherently bad thing. So to put it in Harry Potter terms, the Harry Potter universe, fat would be the Professor Snape. Everyone thinks he's bad and evil, but he's not, and he's had a pretty sad past. And that's really keto in a nutshell, what it is and how it works. I know I didn't dive too deep into exactly how every process starts, finishes, what enzymes are breaking down what, because I don't think many of you give a shit about that. I think what most people want to understand is exactly what it is and how it works. Now, depending on what research you look at, some of it's just bullshit like, keto will not only make you taller, but it'll also make your dick 10 times bigger. Do a keto diet now and buy my book so you know how to do it right. Obvious scams, don't fall for that kind of shit. But there is a myriad of other health benefits besides just fat loss. Insulin levels are reduced, and then there's other studies that say that, you know, your mental focus is improved, blood pressure is improved, a whole bunch of different shit. I highly encourage anyone out there that's curious about a keto diet or thinking of starting one to do your own research and learn how to do it the right way. But yeah, that concludes this lesson, so class is dismissed. Big thanks to Zeno for the professional as fuck animation to really take today's lesson to the next level. Good afternoon, class. It's me again, Professor Wetty and Ready. So please put away your fleshlights and take out your notebooks because it's time for another lesson. Today's topic: is monosodium glutamate the worst thing human beings have ever created, 10 times worse than the invention of the atomic bomb? Was the Manhattan Project actually a government cover-up to hide the truth from the people? That the government was cooking up monosodium glutamate in those laboratories? So let's just get right into this shit. MSG, I'm sure you've heard of it, monosodium glutamate. It's become the boogeyman of the food industry. If you've ever looked at a food package, even glanced at it, there's a good chance you've seen MSG free on it. For some reason, the general population believes that you need to stay far, far away from MSG. It's the bully on the food playground that's gonna kick sand in your ice cream cone. It's gonna give you headaches, heartburn, cancer. It's gonna throw you in prison. It's gonna fuck you up for the long term if you eat even one thing with even the littlest trace amount of MSG in it. So food companies have come to understand that people will not buy products with MSG in it because of this fear of it. So what they do is they say, we've taken the MSG out. This is an MSG-free product. But now I'm going to throw this cold water on you and hit that tip of your penis with this lightning bolt of facts. The MSG is still in those products. They just hide it in other ingredients. So on the package, you'll see MSG free on it. But if you turn it over and look at the ingredients and see tomato powder or yeast extract, that's MSG. They're hiding MSG in those ingredients, and that's totally legal, that's totally by the books. Now, if you've already thrown up because you've ingested MSG and now you're panicking, don't, because the fear of MSG is pretty unfounded, and I want to talk about it. So let's start with the basics. Monosodium glutamate was created in 1908. Why did it make its way into food? It wasn't an accident. It's not just because they wanted to make it unhealthy or something like that. A lot of people seem to believe that a lot of the ingredients in modern food are useless and they serve no purpose other than making them unhealthy. but that's bullshit. Everything in there has a purpose. It's not like they're just mindlessly tossing shit in there for no reason. Like, oh, hey, Gary, why don't you take that handful of mulch and just toss it into the Lay's formula? Righto, Frank, would you like this Windex bottle in there as well? Why not? Everything in the modern food has a purpose. Monosodium glutamate has a purpose. Its purpose is to enhance flavor, mainly umami, which is one of the 5 basic tastes. Umami is savory. So now you know why it's used, but what is MSG? Well, its name implies it's the product of sodium and glutamate. What is glutamate? Glutamate's a non-essential amino acid, and that's found in fucking everything. You can't go outside without basically breathing glutamate. It's in all your foods, 100% in all of them. MSG is made from the fermentation of starches, and speaking chemically, there's no difference between the glutamate in MSG and the glutamate in just every other food. Only difference being MSG is a little bit easier for your body to access. Now let's get to why everyone seems to think MSG is the worst thing in the world for your body and that you're better off just popping cyanide capsules as opposed to having any amount of MSG in your body. It all stems from the fact that glutamate is an excitatory neurotransmitter, meaning it excites nerve cells, and that MSG leads to an excessive amount of glutamate in the brain, which can cause damage. Thus, it was given the name an excitotoxin. Then in 1969, there was a study conducted to show that MSG was harmful by injecting MSG into newborn mice, and it showed neurological effects that were harmful, as you would expect from fucking injecting MSG like a heroin addict. In 1996, there was a book called Excitotoxins: The Taste That Kills, published by Dr. Russell Blaylock, and in this book he basically just says that an excessive amount of glutamate can destroy nerve cells, and not just in your brain, just in general. And that's a true statement, yeah. But that's kind of fucking obvious, because if you megadose on anything, it can cause harmful effects. You can fucking die from drinking too much water, so obviously megadosing on something is going to cause some harmful effects. However, dietary MSG, the MSG that you ingest through eating shit with MSG in it, has little to no effect on the human brain because it can't cross the blood barrier in large amounts. So then why, when you tell someone MSG isn't bad, that they damn near slap you in the face because they have had a personal experience with MSG where their entire family was eradicated due to that MSG menace? Well, actually, that's kind of true. It didn't kill your family or anything. It didn't do anything super harmful, but it is true you can have a sensitivity to MSG. There's studies that have confirmed that some people just have an inclination to have some negative effects to it. Nothing too severe, just a bit of nausea and headaches and some flushing of the face, but enough to where you'd be like, alright MSG, that, fuck you. Another thing that's often associated with MSG is obesity. If you even touch MSG, you're gonna gain 5 pounds immediately. And really, there's just no decisive conclusion on this one, because some studies say that it fills you up faster, thus you're not going to eat as much. Others say the exact opposite, so it's really split. However, if you want my opinion on it based on the research I've read, I think it does increase the likelihood of gaining weight because the foods with MSG are typically the junky foods that you're going to have a hard time putting down. Thus, you're going to eat more of, thus you're going to gain weight. However, one thing's for sure, MSG itself doesn't put pounds on your body. It just makes things taste better. Now, just to wrap it all up, MSG is not fucking bad for you. The fear of MSG is completely irrational and based on pretty much nothing, in my opinion. For some reason, it's just become the accepted norm in our society where if you don't recognize what's on the ingredients label, that it's inherently bad for you. Oh, green grass is in this bag of seaweed. Okay, I've seen green grass. This must be healthy and natural. Oh my god, what the fuck is this monosodium glutamate? Jesus Christ, it's the root of all my problems. All of a sudden you get fired from your job and you go outside screaming, God damn you MSG, as you shake your fist into the air. It's not inherently bad just because you don't understand it, so I hope I've helped you understand it a bit better. All of this being said, I would say avoid MSG. Not because MSG is bad, but just because the food it's found in is bad for you food. And even if you do swear off of MSG, but you're still going to eat like some shitty junk food, just know you're still ingesting MSG. It's just not labeled as MSG. I'm not trying to send you to bed with nightmares of the monosodium glutamate menace or anything, I'm just letting you know. Again, a massive thanks to Zeno for this animation. The dude is an unmatchable mountain of masculinity, so go check out Zeno's channel, subscribe to Zeno, all that good shit, because the man truly deserves it. He's mastered the art of animation. He had to turn down Pixar 100 times because I wouldn't stop begging for him to be on board, but you know what he said? He said, no, I'm too good for Pixar. And he is. He's actually got animating down to a science, so definitely go check him out. See ya. During one of my yearly I look like a fucking psychopath with my hair like this. But I'm not getting a haircut. Don't even fucking tell me. I'm just going to let it grow. We're going to see what happens with the hair. But anyway, during one of my yearly answering question videos, I was asked about a secret talent that I have that no one knows about. And I said I had one, which was doing magic tricks, more specifically card magic. And yeah, it's a pretty fucking cool hobby, a secret talent to have. It definitely slays some pussy. Women watching this right now are probably completely wet just knowing that I can do card magic. Those are some sodden panties, no doubt. But I lied to all of you. I did. I actually have two secret talents, but the second one I don't often talk about because I feel like a lot of you will look at me differently, like I'm too powerful, like I'm this champion of masculinity, but I figured it's about time I talk about it. I am a carnival connoisseur. I can always win the big prizes. I am unfucking stoppable when it comes to winning those huge, ginormous prizes from the carnivals. So yesterday the state fair rolled around and I decided, you know what, let's go flex some of this shit again. I have an entire closet full of big stuffed animals, so typically what I do now when this rolls around is I win the big prize and give it away to a kid or something at the park. Anyone that really wants it, honestly. I just like winning the fucking prizes. It really makes a lot of blood rush to my penis. It makes me feel super fucking powerful, like an X-Men with a really useless power like winning carnival games. But I had Tiana record this so you guys could see how it's done, how the master goes to work like this. What you're about to see is like watching Da Vinci go to work, like taking a peek into the genius. Now the game I win all the big prizes on is called Bottle Up. It's pretty simple. You have a stick, you have a ring, you have a string connecting the ring to the stick. Pretty much what cavemen used to do in their spare time, just fucking stand up beer bottles. It's at an angle, you only have to stand up one beer bottle using only the stick and ring and you get the biggest prize that is there. It's all it takes. The guy there, typically at Bottle Up, will just start standing shit up left and right like he's some type of android with the sole purpose of standing up beer bottles with a ring and stick. And I just kind of emulate what he does. To give it a brief summary, you lift it up halfway, and then once it's halfway, you just lean forward like you're about to just fucking fall face first and eat shit. And 100% of the time it stands up. I also win the big prize on the basketball game, but there's no life hacks there. There's no pro tips, no Mr. Gear style life hacks there. That one's just pure raw skill. I have a disgusting basketball shot. Absolutely legendary. If I was just a little bit taller than 5'6", I'd probably be in the NBA making everyone look like amateurs. But anyway, here's the clips.
Under pressure now. First time. Winner.
Jesus. I feel like a superhero.
Game 2 now. Open hoops, guys. $2, 2 shots. All right, for the win, get this one in.
Every time. I like to be here.
Many of you already know this, but magic tricks were a very big part of my childhood and even into my adult elite gamer years in college. I was dabbling in magic tricks. In fact, the very first video I ever posted on YouTube was of myself performing a magic trick, but I've since deleted it. YouTube still has it, and I guarantee they're still trying to crack the code on how I performed it. Luckily, I deleted it though, because otherwise Randy Pitchford would have dedicated his life to figuring out how I solved that and just abandoned the Borderlands series. Fucking Randy Pitchford spent a year trying to figure out how a cam girl squirted so much. Imagine what he would have done if he saw my magic trick. The point I'm making is magic was a huge part of me growing up. And today, I'm going to reveal to you a secret I invented myself to try and get laid in college. And this shit works like a charm. It's almost impossible not to work. You don't even need to be around women for it to work. If you just perform the trick in your own little isolation chamber, women will probably flock to you somehow, fucking rappelling down into your window. It's a very powerful magic trick, and I'm going to break the magician's code and teach you how I do it. I'm going to fucking full throttle sin, raw and no rubber. Magicians are going to hate me. Chris Angel's going to have a wet nightmare. David Blaine's going to throw in the towel and retire tomorrow, I bet. I actually taught people how to do this magic trick on my streams at twitch.tv/moistcritical, and people haven't been able to stop getting laid. It's almost been a curse. Every time they do the trick, it's just so much pussy. So I'm going to now take the lesson I taught on stream and teach it to all of you over here on YouTube, and just hope that you can use it for good instead of evil. Now, there's an up-and-coming magician named Jerry Presley who actually performed this trick as he heard me explain it on stream. Performed it for these two women here, one of them looking like Alinity, might actually be Alinity, there's no telling, and he performs it very well and hopefully got a threesome out of it. Now, let's go ahead and get into it. First, you're going to need a deck of playing cards. They don't need to be as cool as mine, but these are my old bicycle ghosts, as they were called. Back in like 2009, 2010, there was like a really cool looking Alpha Chad magician who was like flourishing these cards one time on YouTube, and I asked my parents to buy them for me, and I got them for like Christmas or something. But you don't need to be this cool, is what I'm saying. You can just use any old piece of shit deck of cards you want. You can use Yu-Gi-Oh cards if you wanted to. Now let me give you an overview of the trick. The objective is to get a phone number, man, woman, police officer, it doesn't really matter who, but it was to get an excuse to ask for the phone number. You don't need an excuse to ask for a phone number, but when you're a fucking 19-year-old college student who's pretending to be a mysterious anime character, it helps to have a fucking excuse because you're just a fucking weirdo. But anyway, what I'm saying is it's to get the phone number. So I'm going to perform it kind of for you guys here. So I'd say, hey, ma'am, I like those milkers on you. Those honkers mean business. Can I have your phone number for the sake of this magic trick with my ghost cards? And she'd be like, oh my god, are those real ghost cards? Jesus, I'm already wet, but yeah, show me the trick. So she gives me her phone number. I now send her a text with what card she is going to pull from this deck. And I'm going to give her a free choice of it, but she can't look at that text message till it's over. So I say, hey, you can't look at that, but just wait till after the trick and it's going to blow your asshole wide open. It's going to be the coolest goddamn thing you've ever seen in your life. So, you know, it's just small talk a little bit, and then I get to the trick. I just ask her to cut the deck, or I can flip through the deck. It doesn't really matter. But the deck ends up getting cut in two like this. It doesn't matter where. It doesn't really matter. And then I go ahead and put it on top of it so that there's no trickery here. And then I let her take the card off the top because this is where she cut, and she takes the card, and it's the 7 of clubs. Okay? And I've texted her that already way before the trick even happened. So now the question is, how did I know that? Am I truly just the messiah of magic? The mind freak of madness? The torpedo of trickery? No, I'm something more. I'm a gamer. So my trick is literally one move and then just distracting the person. A single card force. Every card trick ever done pretty much uses a card force. What's a card force? It's exactly what the name implies. You're forcing someone to pick the card you know. The easiest one, the one I always used, was you'd close your eyes, you'd rifle through the deck of cards, someone would tell you stop right there, and you always know their card. That's the 4 of spades. It doesn't matter when you're doing it, it doesn't matter how many times you do it, you can just endlessly do this shit for as long as you want because you're forcing the cards. Stop. Oh, Jesus. Stop. 6 of clubs. You can always know exactly what card you're forcing on someone. How does that one work? You know the bottom card. So when you rifle through, they say stop, you're pulling the bottom card off, well, as long as you have a good grip, and you're always going to know exactly what you're giving them. I invented my own card force, though, and it's even easier. And I swear to God, I should have gotten a Nobel Prize for this discovery. This shit is almost as important as discovering gravity. This card force is a game changer in Magic. So all you need to know is the top card, 2 of diamonds. That's the top card, and that's the card they're going to pick 100% of the time in this trick. So you text them 2 of diamonds once you get the number, because that's 100% what they're going to pick. And now, all it is a matter of distracting the person you're doing the trick to. So you have them cut the deck if they want to themselves and make another pile of it. They can ask you to, if they want you to cut it, you can cut it wherever you want. It doesn't matter where the deck gets cut. So let's just say for this time it got cut right down the middle. So now you have these 2 piles. They now give you these 2 piles, and now you start making small talk and moving your hands around. Sports, porn. Then you take this part, which is where they actually cut. This is what their card should be. But now you've distracted them enough, you've wooed them over enough where you put this on top, and then you set the whole pile down so that way they have the illusion that you're not messing with anything. You know, oh, my hands are over here, I can't do anything now, nothing crazy going on. And then you tell them that this card is where they cut, and hopefully they don't realize that it should be this one. So then you take this piece off, you have them take their top card, and of course it's the 2 of diamonds, because, I mean, it's just the fucking top card, but they don't know that. They think this is where they cut when they had free choice. But it's not, because you have outsmarted them. You are the intellectual of the group. You're the enlightened Reddit atheist of this shindig. Again, I'll demonstrate. Top card, 6 of hearts. You say, hey, listen, lady, cut this shit. I've already sent you a text. I know what you're pulling. They cut it. Bang. You get 2 piles. You're distracting them. Bang, put that shit on top. Take your hands off. Tell them that's the card. They pick the card. 6 of hearts again. It's incredible how simple it is, and yet nobody ever figured it out. Ever. And no one could figure it out unless I told them. Because this trick is beyond intelligence. This has transcended magic tricks and become a cult movement in and of itself. It is fucking phenomenal. So please, ladies and gentlemen, after having revealed this remarkable secret, a top secret government secret, please use it responsibly. And when you use it, make sure you tell them it came from me. And then you link them to my Twitch channel and my YouTube and stuff. You give me credit for this discovery, this trick, because it's fucking huge. I'm unironically proud of that trick. I actually did get a few numbers with it. I never did fuck all with the numbers, but just the fact that it even got to that point and they could at least fake excitement and wonder from the magic is enough for me. And maybe it will be for you too. Maybe this will launch your social life or destroy it, one or the other. But yeah, that's about it. That's my big magic trick that I invented. So yeah.